obviously a lot going on, most specifically the conflict happening in Iran. In my client conversations on a daily basis, it certainly is something that's coming up more frequently. Some curious, some concerned, some full on anxious, and the underlying question behind the questions that they ask is, are my investments okay? So I think you're probably the best one to speak to that. So, I'll give you the opportunity to do so, and hopefully people can get some insight out of this.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing for clients to take is that their portfolios have been extremely resilient. So this is how the portfolios are meant to be built, to be resilient in these types of environments. So if we look at the different pieces to the puzzle, which I like to call them, on the equity standpoint, we've been able to preserve capital much better than the indices. Yeah. So that's a positive for our investors. And when we look on the fixed income side, we've been positioned really well for this type of environment because we have believed for a long time that inflation was going to be back on the radar. So now that oil prices, natural gas, and fertilizer prices, diesel, all of that are going up, inflation expectations have been trending up, which has a negative impact on bonds. So we've been positioned really well for that. And as well, obviously, strategies that even benefit from inflation, we've been adding. So for example, farmland, which is one that I love to talk about. We basically own land and the commodities that define inflation. So this is a type of environment that's actually benefiting from what's happening. So this is where I believe that having access to investments that are not available to everyday investors really show their value to our clients.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. It's something that I try and highlight a lot in the conversations I have with clients. And a lot of times you see them have sort of that aha moment. Okay, so and they're like, so what you're saying is essentially I'll have some investments that are benefiting, even though I'm going into my local grocery store and screaming in frustration due to the increase in cost, which is probably simply put, that was the goal, right? Is to at least, try and maintain or increase your purchasing power in your dollars you'll be using in the future, so that, yes, of course, the impact now is being felt and nobody likes to feel that, but it's almost, as they say, a hedge, but what, often people don't, who are familiar with that terminology, it's more of an offset opportunity. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and the way I like to put it is having different ways to win. So basically, with a traditional 60-40 portfolio, you can only win with stocks or fixed income. Now that we have access to alternatives as well, such as insurance-linked strategies, agriculture, and farmland, we have more ways to win. So they're good strategies as a standalone, but when you put it from a portfolio construction standpoint, the benefits are basically amplified. So it's this type of environment that we do want to have these positions, and they've been delivering for us. So I think we see the value in those types of environments.
And without taking on additional risk. I remember a gentleman I worked with many, many moons ago had mentioned to me, and it was true at the time, he said, equities are a great hedge against inflation. And, of course, that comes with a significant amount of risk at times. And I think, if I can paraphrase what you are saying, is that these different ways to win is that different ways you can accomplish exactly what he was saying, and do so in a way where you don't have to expose yourself to unnecessary amount of risk.
Yeah, and the relationship for equities and inflation is more difficult. So it's more over the long term that equities will be a good hedge for inflation. But as we've seen in 2022 and most recently with the Iran conflict, equities and fixed income have not behaved, have basically shown losses during these periods. So those are the periods where stocks and bonds not performing at the same time. Those are the ones that can create problems for retirees or just people that are decumulating or withdrawing from their portfolios. So those are the situations that we really do want some strategies or some investments that are performing well in this environment. So agriculture, farmland, best example in the sense that we own the commodities that define inflation. So this portfolio does well in an inflationary environment.
Yeah, really well put. And, of course, that is one that, as I said, gets a lot of airtime in my conversations with clients. For those that are watching this and want to learn more, of course, reach out to us at Bold Wealth, and I'm more than happy to, of course, take that meeting if it's current client working with their planner, with their trusted planner, or anybody that's considering working with Boldwell. So yeah, thanks for sharing this. I mean, I think you really articulated it well in a relevant way that speaks to, the investment side of it, because of course just the headlines alone can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
volatility is the price of entry to investments. That's the reason we're able to get higher than risk-free types of returns. So we have to navigate these difficult conditions, but the investors and our clients can know that our portfolio is resilient to these types of environments, so they can feel safe to continue onto their investment journey with their financial plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Achieve those outcomes, right?
Absolutely.
Outcome-based investing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks again,
Thank
man.
you.
Always good to see you, and appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks.
Great.